It has taken me 35 years to realize that you are what you wear. And I just wonder, what are you wearing today? Take a look at what did you put on this morning. How many of us consciously this morning got dressed, knowing what you are wearing? Maybe you were too busy this morning because life is very busy. Or maybe you are such a hardcore fashionista and this morning you stepped into the clothes that the magazines and the blogs tell us is on trend. Or maybe you were just really hungover this morning and you woke up and you just put on whatever was lying crumpled on the floor from last night. But I'm telling you, every single time that you pull your head through your top or you stick your leg through your jeans, that you are part of, you are an accomplice of one of the world's most polluting industries that is killing the planet and people. And it really doesn't need to be like that, because you have an incredible power to reduce the pollution in the fashion industry. Now, I should know this. For the last 7 years, I've been in a huge battle against pollution in the fashion industry. And there's a reason why I say battle, because anything that's big and worth winning is a battle. And I can tell you, I've got a lot of scars from my battle, and these are personal scars and professional scars, because I am the most unlikely person that you would ever expect to be working against pollution in the fashion industry, because I have no experience in the fashion industry. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. So I used to be a dentist working in London, filling and drilling and doing crown and bridges, and I hated it because I hated hurting people. So I retrained, because dentists do hurt people. Never believe that this isn't going to hurt. So I retrained as a journalist in London, and 9 years ago I moved to Hong Kong. And when I first moved to Hong Kong, I was a freelance journalist, and I was writing about all sorts of topics for all sorts of publications. I wrote about topics like my sex life, which 9 years ago was much better than it is today, 3 kids. And I also used to write a lot about the environment. Now, on the environment, this is something that really mattered to me. As a journalist, I asked lots of good questions. I said, why is China so polluted? Why does China have such an environmental crisis at the moment? We know that 16 out of the world's top 20 most polluted cities are here in China. And we also know that the fashion and textile industry is horrifically polluting. So as a journalist, I asked lots of questions, and then I discovered, as you probably will know, that China produces the world's clothes and textiles. And I was so moved when I discovered all this information, and when I discovered that not really enough was being done to make the fashion industry less polluting, I jumped in and I launched Redress in 2007, and our mission is to reduce waste in the fashion industry. If we just take a moment to think about the fashion industry, very few of you, very few consumers around the world realize just how big the fashion industry. It has an estimated annual income and revenue of 1.7 trillion US dollars. And every single person in this room and around the world are part of it, because we are consumers. And I'm assuming that most people wear clothes, essentially. So we are all united by the fabric on our back into this wonderful but also horrific industry. I was on an aeroplane recently flying back to the UK, and I was watching a documentary about the fashion industry. And in that documentary, there was an interview with Anna Wintour, who is the editor of US Vogue. She's the queen of the fashion industry. She knows everything. And in this documentary, she said, fashion is a reflection of our times. And as I was sitting there eating my peanuts at 35,000 feet, I started to cry, because I think that is so depressing. Because if fashion is a reflection of our times, then we are living in a terrible, terrible time. And we are the fabric of the fashion industry. And this reflects on us. And I was really moved by her interview. Because if you look at the darker side of the fashion industry, you will know and discover that clothes are one of the most polluting consumer goods out there. Just my jeans used a huge amount of natural resources. My jeans used 3,625 litres in their production. My jeans used 3 kilos of chemicals, which are horribly toxic. My jeans used 400 megajoules of energy, which is the same as leaving a light bulb on for 116 days approximately. And my jeans used about 13 square meters of land just to grow the cotton, and apparently I'm terrible at maths, but we kind of worked it out that I think it's from the B to the E, this amount of stage. That's how much land was required for my pair of jeans. Now, it's also very polluting, because it's estimated that 20% of the world's industrial water pollution is caused by the textile industry. And in China, it's estimated that 75% of all diseases are linked to water pollution. So I was really horrified by all of this. And these findings really fueled the early part of my battle. And in those early years, I battled against the fashion industry. My focus was the industry. I spent 5 years battling with designers, brands, retailers, manufacturers, suppliers, putting my heart and soul into making the actual production of clothes less polluting. But then, something major happened to me 2 years ago, and it changed the way I dress forever. Because I took a TV crew up into China, and I took them to make a news report on some really good clothes that we had been involved in. Now, we went to these factories, and these factories were doing a bit more recycling here, and this was reducing water pollution there, and a little bit less carbon, a little bit more, less energy and greenhouse gases. And I was so proud, because this is something we'd championed. And we were filming, and I was really thinking, you know what, I have actually won this battle. I couldn't believe it. I thought, we are finally actually on the cusp of creating clothes that are a little bit less polluting. And I was so happy. But at the end of the shoot with the TV crew, we went to one of Hong Kong's landfills. And we were there all morning. It gave me about 3 hours to watch this ugly situation in front of my eyes. When we arrived in the morning, there was actually a queue, like a traffic jam of rubbish trucks that were queuing up come into the landfill, which is basically a mountain of rubbish. This photo was taken a little bit later, otherwise you would have seen a queue of trucks coming in after the morning pickup. And I was horrified. And I realized right here, at this moment in the landfill, that whatever the fashion industry does to try to make our clothes a little bit less polluting, that it is absolutely nothing if us consumers buy so many clothes and chuck so many clothes away. And so if you look at us consumers, and I'm one of them, all right, I think we've gone absolutely crazy today. We started buying so many clothes. 80 billion new garments made from virgin resources are created every year. Western consumers are thought to buy 60% more clothes today than they did 10 years ago. And over that time, we haven't started sort of miraculously spending more of our household income on clothes. Not at all. We've started to buy lots more, and we're not even spending more on it. And the reason for that is because clothes have become very, very cheap. And when you get cheap, you generally get bad quality. And so what has actually happened is today we are all dressed in rags. It's true. And because we are dressed in rags, these clothes don't last so long, and so we tend to chuck them out. In Hong Kong, it is estimated that every single day 217 tons of textiles go into our landfill. Now, I don't know what 217 tons looks like. And so we did some very conservative numbers on this, and we estimate that every 1 hour in Hong Kong, we send 10,000 garments into our landfill. 10,000 of these really, really polluting garments. In the US, if you look at the US landfill, over the last 11 years in the US, their landfills have seen a 38% increase in the amount of textiles going into their landfills. Meanwhile, their overall landfill waste has come down by 1%. And so I decided right here that I was only going to wear clothes that other people had dumped for 1 year. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I wanted to put the problem on my back. I wanted to know, why are people throwing away so many clothes? And I also wanted to demonstrate that the clothes that people threw away were fantastic quality. And so this was my wardrobe for 1 year. I did not go to the landfill and source my clothes because I probably would have got killed by one of those trucks. So instead, I went to this used clothes, second-hand, dumped clothing recycling warehouse up on the border. And in here are all the clothes that consumers dump into the bins that go into recycling. I would go there once a month, spend a long day sweating and getting very dirty, getting bitten by mosquitoes, and I would come out with my clothes for the month, and I was off and away, having a lot of fun doing this, actually. Every single day, I took a photo of what I was wearing. Every single day, I wore something different. And I used to post all of the images on social media and Instagram to follow my journey. And I got a ridiculous amount of media. The media around the world loved the story. It was a very, very high-impact project. But I learnt a few things from this experience. Because I was clothed in people's rubbish for the whole year, I learnt a lot about clothes. Number one, I know why people love clothes, because clothes do have a big power to change the way that we feel and the way that we act. And I know that because I wore so many last year. And so I understand why we want to shop. I understand why you all love fashion. Number two, I realized that we really do need to take care of clothes, because so often I would find really expensive, beautiful quality clothes that had been dumped by somebody else just because a button was missing or because it had a minor stain. And I really realized that, we really need to look after our clothes. And finally, I learnt that you really need to have an emotional bond with your clothes. You need to love your clothes. And I realized that through when I found these clothes, and I would, scummage around and I'd find something interesting, and then I would care for it and bring it back to life, that I really loved that piece of clothing. And it is important as consumers to fall in love with your clothes. And so I realized for the first time in 35 years that I am what I wear. I was so happy doing this project because I was dressed on the outside exactly how I feel on the inside. Because on the inside of me, I really care about the planet. I really care about the people. And this project, through being able to wear the most sustainable clothes in the whole wide world, because I was essentially getting them out of a bin, this allowed me to dress on the outside how I feel on the inside. And that is why I'm here today to tell you that you are what you wear. You have just as much power as I have to reduce pollution in the fashion industry. You are all soldiers that can fight against waste and pollution caused by the fashion industry. And this is actually backed up by research because scientists have done what they call a life cycle analysis. So they look at a garment, let's just say my poor jeans again, and they can calculate how much negativity and how much pollution comes off when the cotton is being grown and whilst the jeans are being made. And then they can look at how much pollution is created after you leave the shop with your jeans in your bag. And when you take it home and you wash it and bleach it and tumble dry it and dry clean it and chuck it away and whatever else you might do to it. And they have found that 58% of the negative impacts that come out of a piece of clothing is caused by us. And I think that is fantastically great news. I'm so happy about that because it actually means that we have more power than the industry to change the amount of pollution that's coming out of our clothes. This is brilliant news. We should definitely be celebrating. But if you think, oh my God, my wardrobe, how am I going to make my wardrobe become so sustainable? Do I have to run home and chuck it all away and buy a second-hand one? You definitely do not need to do that. You need to be more conscious about your clothing. And that means, number one, around your consumption. It's very simple, but you should buy less and buy better. Never buy poorly made clothes. Always buy well-made, durable clothes, because the durability of your clothes is the most important factor in determining its sustainability. And of course, always look for sustainable brands and second-hand clothes, of course. The second thing is you need to care for the clothes that you have. That means repair them and wash them very well. And finally, if for whatever reason you really want to get rid of some clothes, recycle them, because textiles are almost 100% recyclable. So never, 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 please put them in the bin. Don't put them in the bin, and never let them enter landfill. Now, I'm a really optimistic person, and I really think that you are good people like me. I think you care about the planet, and I think that you care about the people that are involved in making your clothes. And so that's why I'm here to remind and to encourage you to believe that if we are what we wear, then we can actually reduce pollution coming out of the fashion industry. And so I want to take you to take this message home, and every day when you dress, that you will remember that you are what you wear. Thank you.